All right, good evening, folks. This is a new setup. I'll try to see how this works. So, interesting that this shows way too much. Lean above a little bit. Okay, there. Oh, come on. Can we have it back on, please? Okay. Left hand. Okay, not that you have to see. Alright, so something like this. Hopefully should work. Okay, so today we are on my phone as the camera, and I have probably this is a good time to think about sort of moving on to other pieces with Chopin Nocturne taking a slight pause. I felt that I need more time to think about Opus 48 and then 55, which I don't know how to play. So I will do them a little later next week. And also certainly when Nathan feels comfortable enough to try 37, 1 and 2. So as you can see in the title today, that I intend to talk about the Brahms Haydn variation, because it turns out that my school orchestra is playing a few selections from the variations. But I think this is almost a good time to talk about what is meant by a piece that's called variations. So as my page is loading, I suppose we can go really semantically about what is meant by a variation. So the English word itself just means that it's usually based, it has a base case. It's based on a theme musically. So the theme will be played first to indicate this is my thesis. And then using various musical techniques, this theme will be translated to other different representation using rhythm, slight melodic changes, maybe just ornamentation like the Chopin ornamentations, timbre, or you can say the range on which you use the piano. You can say you can even write a fugue based on your theme, so that's a kind of variation. You're just letting your imagination go free to explore the musical possibilities that is based on just one theme. So usually this theme shouldn't be too complicated, otherwise your variations will become infinitely more complicated, and that's usually actually a bad thing. I think it should be very clear on the page. It should be easy to listen to. If it starts very complicated, then it's going to be hard to really capture the attention. It's going to be just too many things going on. So we actually had probably from previous stream, that the famous Mozart Piano Sonata in A major, so this this piano sonata has 3 movements, and as it turns out, the first movement is in variation form. So just to illustrate a little better, so all you just heard is the main theme of the melodic line. So it sounds like a lullaby, right? Let me play a little better. So this is the main theme, but you could go on and say, what would a variation sound like? So let's just remember the opening line. Just this is enough, So what Mozart did afterwards is something along this line. That's what he did. So it became So if I play a little more, so opening line is and Mozart turned it into so he basically hit all the spots of the variation of the opening main theme, but this is of course a very different character. So that's one type of variation. And you may hear that, okay, how is it going to turn something into the next one? So let me play the opening theme again just to leave an impression. So it's like a lullaby, right? And then the second variation, it starts this way. Sounds alike, yes, but it's again a different character even than the first variation. And then he also can play with keys. So in terms of the key was in A major, and he turned it into A minor, for example. So main theme, right? Okay. And then he turned it into So this is a larger deviation from the theme, but he kept some of the units in there. And also this is already a very large contrast because this is in the parallel minor key, A minor. So it's already quite a nice surprise and quite a nice material change. And then later on you will find out that he really deviates from a lot of this, and then they don't sound as if they're the same. So you eventually may hear this. So it sounds like that, but it's more elaborate now. It's maybe a little slower. You have more notes. Every variation intends to be basically, it's like the same character, but you put them in different times of history, or maybe you put them in different environments. So they reflect different, as if they're different characters, but the main backbone of the piece stays the same. So this is, you can say this is, okay, all right, this is a very sort of a quick crash course of what a variation is. But in my opinion, in fact, variations are almost the best example to learn about how music, especially composers, keep the music interesting. It's almost the best one of those best examples to learn how a theme is maintained and was referred to, but in various forms. Not all symphonies, for example, not all piano sonatas are variations, but all symphonies or variation or theme and variations have a theme or multiple themes. And their representation can be varied later on. In symphony, the way to vary them may sound a bit more abstract. It doesn't have to fall into the structure of, let's say, 4+4 phrases, but usually variations do, that they keep the same structure. So it's actually, I think it's a great way to learn about the basic functions and the basic foundations of basically all aspects of music. So that was an example of Mozart. What I wanted to highlight now is this Brahms Haydn variation. So the full name here is called Variation from a Theme by Joseph Haydn. This theme is also called the Chorale Saint Anthony. Let's see if my files are ready. Okay, fantastic. So while these things load, let me actually see whether I can read at least the opening of this part. Okay, let's see if I can pull this from. Okay, so something like this. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I think I lost my. What do I need? Window capture. Every time, man. It's a struggle. Okay. Fantastic. While that loads, I should probably still play better. Let me try again. Okay, let's try this. Okay, something like that. Low up, but then this is the piano score. Now, you may wonder, why am I playing this on a piano? This piece is actually meant to be a work for orchestra. But also Brahms then wrote a a four-hand two-piano version that many, let's say, pianists also collaborate on, and they sound quite nice. Now, the version that I just played is actually by somebody called Ludwig Stark, and he made the single solo piano arrangement. I mean, I didn't have the time to really check whether this is up to par, but it has lived for so long, so I suppose that this is this is at least respected. There are other versions. Even I think modern pianists made solo transcriptions of this. But what's important is what you see on the screen right now. The main theme of this Haydn variation. So the theme here is written by Haydn. So I'm not even going to play on. My highlight here is that it doesn't sound, let's say, groundbreaking, right? It doesn't sound groundbreaking. Just like Mozart. My hand didn't even move. So same with Brahms here. So, well, this is Haydn. Same with the Haydn theme. And this is probably going to come back to my earlier comment that if your theme of your variation is very complicated, then it's probably not that easy to keep the interest going, because something complicated already is going to be interesting. So I can tell you my first impression when I heard this piece for the first time. I was like, what kind of a mundane theme is this? And then the more you think that this is mundane, and then later on, the more you are going to admire how Brahms can turn this mundane theme into something that is very interesting. And I think that's a highlight of actually picking a theme. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons that to pick a theme, you shouldn't pick a very glory, fancy theme. You should pick a pretty mundane, regular, nothing crazy theme. And Brahms did it exactly. But besides the melody, what is, again, another nice feature of this theme? I think it is the dotted notation of the first line, in the first line. So you should remember this. I just played 2 notes, and they're just repeated. Okay, 2 bars have gone by. You thought there's going to be content. All I played was 2 notes. Okay, and then repeat. But how Haydn developed it was he thinks that the opening is important, and that's why the second part of this theme is play better. Right? And then he keeps developing it. Same in here, right? So you can say that this theme pretty much is driven by the opening highlighted text here, which sounds nothing fancy, but somehow this rhythm is kind of upbeat. You kind of felt kind of uplifted by it, but not entirely. Like you're not just jubilant, right? So you sound hopeful, right? This sounds pretty hopeful. So what Haydn did was sort of just what's the word? Yeah, just delve on this rhythm. And this sort of turn, right? This is a turn, right? Okay, and then sure, and then you go on, and then that's the chorale. That's the chorale of by Haydn, and that's it. Haydn stops writing. Now Brahms takes over. Say, I'm gonna orchestrate the opening, which is what you just heard. I'm gonna take it to the next level, but probably my first level shouldn't be also too crazy because I'm certainly starting at a good place with the variation form, as in the theme is not necessarily difficult. There is a rhythmic drive to it, which I would later explain how Brahms really beat the rhythm to death. Okay, but then it's like we just gave you an appetizer. We actually haven't really given you food. We just welcomed you into this mansion that you just came in to see the big house. You haven't even had your first course yet. So of course the first course should not overwhelm you, right? It should be a amuse-bouche, right? So I'm definitely butchering the French here. I guess amuse-bouche or something, right? So it's just a palate cleanser and just something to get you started. Now I'm done with the theme. The theme is basically 1 unit. That's it. Everything else are paired with it, and you will hear them in passing. But let's just focus on one thing instead of too many things. So this is the second page, and it's already now. I'm not showing you the full orchestral score because that's going to be far more complicated. What I wanted to bring out is just how Brahms turns the original idea, which is into something that no longer looks like it, even in the first variation. So usually the most prominent line is the top line, top of the orchestra. So let's just hear what it is. 1, 2. Wait, where is the... Where the hell is that? Did it just leave? You would usually think like, okay, Mozart just played something, and then the first variation is... Right? So it has the structure of the opening theme. And what Brahms did here was, where is my rhythm? And where is that even? Like, it's all gone. Did Brahms just completely detach from the constrained version from Haydn and say, forget it. I'm going to compose something still in the same key, but I'm going to forget about it. So what is the connection here, right? What is the... I mean, there has to be a connection. Otherwise, this is not going to be in the first variation. So where did this go? So what Brahms did is something that is even more sort of hidden. What was my first impression after hearing the main theme? So the only change is from the D to the E flat, and then I return, right? So what Brahms did here is, I'm just gonna let you remember that change. So it is like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? So Brahms, in this case here, he is saying, I don't want to vary too many things. I just want to vary the basic building block of that basic building block in the opening theme. This is so subtle that I don't think that was very clear the moment that you hear variation 1. Other than just that, just two notes. And Brahms says, don't even worry about the rhythm. I will do something with the rhythm later on, but not now. The rhythm is good, and I feel completely free to explore that rhythm variations, but I'm not going to do it in my second one. I want to show you even more, even something that is even more subtle, but fundamental to the main theme. And that's how he did it. Okay, and then what does he play? Now, you would say, okay, well then, what happened earlier in the main theme? The main theme was repeated, right? Hear it again. Right? It's repeated. So you say, okay, maybe then in the second line it's again repeated, right? You're going to have to find where it gets repeated, because in the opening main theme, you can say the main theme was played in the same position, but then Brahms has the whole orchestra for him to play with, and he said, okay, you know what? Here you already heard this. Let's look at now. Go to the second line. So I will be interested in looking. Okay, where would I find a similar line that highlights this motion of D to E flat? And I found it in the bass. Right here. Right here. Okay, so we found them all, right? We found the parallel main variation of the basic building block of a theme. We found it, and then you should always ask, then what the hell is everything else doing here? You can say, okay, sure, this needs to be a melodic. Well, Brahms formed the melodic line on the grounds of the basic building block of a theme. Okay, great, that's done. And then you can say, okay, every melodic line needs a bass line. Yes? Okay, so that's the thing that we need to also listen to as well, because variation not only is a variation, any variation work, it's like you need to really squeeze out, extract any part of the main theme and use it at your disposal. So all we heard is the right hand. And Brahms used it already. So what about my left hand? Guess what? Every variation, the left hand accompaniment eventually becomes extremely important. So let's hear this without the right hand, okay? So, what is corresponding to the first line? So this is just an octave, right? This is just an octave, I can show you. This is just an octave right here. So basically the same note. It's B flat, it's called B flat. And guess how he starts this whole thing? Right? So he kept the B flat in the business here. As in, because this is just an accompanying bass line that he kept from the opening line. And there's one more thing that I want to point out, and it's a very subtle point. It's actually this transition. So I will play just the first line with the outer hands. Sorry, I made a mistake. Did you hear that? Where was that in the opening theme? We probably found it here. Exactly the same. Right? So this is actually the more uplifting parts of the main theme. And Brahms kept part of it, right? Kept part of it. He didn't actually really delve on the thing that is kind of more interesting is actually the chromatics here. So it's a larger turn, right? But then he kept the next one. Okay, great. So, anyways, Brahms is able to keep something from the main theme. But the biggest sort of hidden point is the right? Good? Okay, great. So we have found the two main things that Brahms kept from the main theme. And now you can almost call this a bona fide variation or variation 1. But there seems to be something that I'm missing from here that I didn't play. It's actually somehow Brahms cooked up a middle line that is absolutely not part of the previous main theme. The main theme had no interior line, and not to mention that Brahms said here, I'm gonna fuck with your brain again, and said, okay, listen to this, and I'm gonna put triplets in here. Now the work is in 2/4, right? We're used to hearing 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I mean, you're used to hearing this 1, 2, right? And which sounds very good, sounds very steady, just like the opening. The opening sounds very steady, yes? So this is the part that I'm gonna call the actual variation part. Brahms took parts of the theme from the opening theme. That's the preservation part, which is needed in every variation, so that it shows the connection to the main theme. Everything else is the imagination part. It's really the creative part. So let me try to play the middle part without other things, because adding that middle part to this solo piano version makes somehow this variation impossible to play. I'm not going to even attempt it, okay? But it sounds like this. It sounds like that. And now there's even more question here. There's always a question. There's always a question. Because is this just something that's just coming out of the blue? Or this is something that's actually maybe even also connected to the original, to the opening main theme. To the opening main theme. So, questions. You see, there's always questions. And remember, everything is pretty much contained in the first 2 lines. Because we're just talking about the first 2 lines in the next variation, so we don't have to look beyond it. So, you may wonder, okay, then what really is, so we found, but what's going on with this? There's no such thing in the previous, right? In the previous thing that sounds like this. There's nothing sounds like this. But you do have something closer. It's like, sounds like it, right? The opening material. Not really, right? So that seems to have a bit of, you cannot say 100% resemblance because it's not. But maybe this falling motion of a third versus and then repeated, right? Right? Okay. Then, but I still haven't really answered my question in the sense that what the hell is going on with this triplet construction? Why does it start not on beat, right? 1, it sounds like it's just trying to match the harmony and at the same time give you a lot of interest in terms of the imbalance between the 3 triplets against the 2 meter. Yes? So even if it has no thematic connection to the previous material, it already sounds pretty interesting. Dun, 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 dun. Right? It already sounds, yeah, complicated just enough. As we know that Brahms is an extremely economic composer. He doesn't let something just, as in everything that he writes has a clue from somewhere else. Especially in his variation work, because the main theme here, even though it's not composed by Brahms, he will take anything that he finds useful and he will turn them into material for his variations. We found 2 just now, the bass line and then the simple motion of, and then maybe something in passing of the falling third. This is just parallel, right? Okay, so what really is this middle part? Well, there's nothing interesting here, but this is interesting. I'm going to keep it floated here in the sense that this is just a creation to create a different texture. And this pretty much wraps up the entire second half. Oh, sorry, the first variation. Whatever that goes on has a similar format. It still has the triplet motor in the middle, and then it keeps everything else. Right? What Brahms shows here is okay. So I think the point here is that what Brahms here also did is that he changed this temporary feeling here, because and what he paralleled it with was this. Same thing, right? But then he pushed it even further. He meant here is that was the opening part, even though there's no what we call G flat here. Okay. You know what? Too much detail. We move on. What really he was showing here is that he kept all the materials. He made basically 3 inventions here. 2 are from the main theme, and 1 is the triplet sort of motor in the middle that he kept this variation going, and that's the only invention. That's the only invention here. Maybe some harmonic changes here and there, but I think they are sort of to the second tier. The largest invention is actually the triplet, and he actually also used the triplet to embellish his transition. And then he kept this, right? Right? He kept this part, right? Or and then you have a glorious return, because in the original orchestration, it's even bigger. you leave the middle register, you go here. Even a coda. Right? Even a coda. Okay. So this is the first part, right? This is the first variation. What Brahms did was two things from the original theme and one invention, which is the middle motor. It already sounds very interesting, and then you also play with the repeat, so then you can make a lot of artistic choices there. Now, second variation. Without even listening to what it is, because I personally cannot play it, but even without listening to what it is, let's just look at what the score says, the geometry, the contour of things. Remember that the opening line has. So the important part is it's the dotted notation, right? It's the dotted notation that is over here, which Brahms never used in the first variation. Never did. So, guess what? This is exactly what he's going to do. Right? Yeah, he was like, don't worry about it. I will use it, and I will beat it to death. So that's how he did it, right? That's how he did it. Ba-ba-bum, bum-bum-bum. And then you have some other remnants of things, and I will tell you what they are. And I think that's pretty crazy that he used them, right? And then you have your left-hand stuff. Bum 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 bum. You have that. And let's look at the right hand. It's so interesting because where were these triplets coming from? They were from the previous variation. They were just from the previous variation. So Brahms was like, I haven't forgotten yet. I want to keep some of them in here so that this is coherent, right? This is coherent. Okay? Okay, and then you move on. Okay, so do I see similar things? Yes, you do. Right here. Right here. And then, now they're staggered. They repeat. These are staggered. Okay, fantastic. They're crazy, and then you repeat, and then you would sound pretty good. I mean, but then what's the most important part here is actually the tonality has changed. The original piece is in B flat major. What Brahms pretty much did here is this. That's pretty much what he did. Because the opening is that's what he did. And then again. And then so in minor key, and that's the first so there's again now, so the only invention here, the few inventions here in this is he now added in, he preserved the dotted rhythm from the opening, but then he changed it to a minor key. You may wonder, what the hell is going on with on the right-hand side? So on the top. Is this coming out of nowhere, or is this just a passing? I'm going to tell you straight up, that's their inversion. So look at this. So lead, which is theme, triad, lead. Okay, what's going on here? So diminished triad coming back, it's inverted of the variation 1 theme. Play better. So this is where I'm calling like Brahms is a crazy composer where he wants everything that he has used before to be showing up somewhere to be helping him. They don't come for free. To him, it came for free because he was like, hey, I can totally use this, and it makes the all variations coherent. They would sound independent because they need to be their own character, yet the material he uses is everything contained. Something that he has introduced, something maybe he hasn't even emphasized on, and then he will use it, and then you will recognize it. And that's why I find Brahms' work timeless, in a sense that you always discover something, not upon the first hearing, upon the first score study, but maybe upon the 50th study, you found, oh God, this is what economy is about. Within such large constraint, he is able to create something that we were not aware of, but it sounds great. And now this gave a further logical conclusion to some of the materials that he used. Okay, so this is variation 2. Now, I want to wrap up with variation 3 today, because that's actually the extent of the WPI orchestra is going to play, is the main chorale, variation 1 through 3, and then they're going to end. Okay, so variation 3 is a con molto with movement, but it's actually it's kind of like a Landler. It's like Landler. So it's like just a little dance, but in the pastoral dance, if you will. It's a pastoral dance. It's a pastoral dance in 2. Okay, so let's just look at the opening, the top line. Wow, this immense line. Okay, I'm not going to tell you which instrument plays that line, but can you imagine? I have a guess. I don't even know what it is. So I'm going to say my guess first before I look at the score, and then we're going to critique on that choice. Let me play this melody again. I only have 2 choices, in my opinion. Maybe 3, but they're all wind instruments. Either they're a flute, they're a clarinet, or they're an oboe. Now, I find maybe the oboe will sound too squeaky here, because there's a very long line. So maybe the clarinet or the flute. So now let's confirm. Variation 3, time to show. Who plays the main melody here? All we have to see is just the top. Ah, oboe. There you go. I was wrong. Oboe plays this. Beautiful. And actually, it's a line, it's a duet between the 2 oboes. Now, I'm not going to delve too much over there. You will notice that actually the bassoon actually parallels. They basically have oboe, so the double readers, they will play parallel duets. I think that's a fantastic. I think that would just sound amazing. I think, man, this part is awesome. But my main point here, since I need to almost wrap up my stream now, is that what is the connection to the main theme? So from the first, it's almost like a joke now that the first bar says, Okay, we totally know where this is coming from. You can almost call this the San Antonio theme, right? What is the next thing about? Parallel? Where did that come from? That's exactly the first variation. Right? Shape is the same, right? Jump of a third and then leap of a third. Same thing. And then you pass it to what? Then you pass this to the left hand, right? So I noticed that I think Stark, the arranger for this piano solo version, he is saying that I'm gonna have the oboe theme to sing out in my first time that you play it, and then the second time around when everything goes away, and when the oboe sort of goes away, we're gonna actually let the viola that actually takes over. I mean, the viola actually plays the main theme, and I mean along with the violin. But then what he was saying here is that he's going to just highlight the viola theme instead of, because the right hand is getting busy playing all these flute lines, but these are just flourishes. These are just, what are they? I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm playing this incorrectly because it's meant to be ba 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 ba. It should be something like that. But so that's the third variation, and then my orchestra will wrap up. So just to leave us with some surprise, how does Brahms end? And I'm not going to go into it, but I will show you the first part. And like every time when the finale starts, I just get goosebumps all over, because remember the opening is this, right? So your left hand has dun, 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 right? And then the right hand is da, 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 right? So what Brahms did was put the two hands together. So basically, he changed a little bit of the bass, and that's why he called it basso ostinato. Basically means this bass, which is the original bass with a small change to make the second line more interesting, which actually ties with the main right-hand chorale theme. And then you go on. So it's just a stagger of the opening material with left and right hand together, now combining both into a basso ostinato. So I'm gonna stop talking now. It's 8:01. I haven't really played you any part in full of this variation, but I hope this is interesting enough that you will now go listen to it, because it's just, you make your judgment.